On November 17, 2021, in broad daylight in South Memphis, gunfire erupted inside a neighborhood bakery. The man targeted was young Dolph, born Adolph Thornton Jr., a self-made music mogul, performer, and hometown hero. Within seconds, he was dead. As the city mourned, investigators launched an intense manhunt. Despite his best efforts, the killer, Justin Johnson, was tracked down and brought to justice by my guest today. I'm Chris Godsick, and this is Chasing Evil. Welcome. My first guest today is Paul Hagerman. He's the Deputy District Attorney for Shelby County, Tennessee, and he was the lead prosecutor on the young Dolph case. Then we have Seth Bruce joining us from the Marshals. He's the supervisor for the U.S. Marshals Two River Violent Fugitive Task Force. Justin Bischoff, he's with the Shelby County Sheriff's Office and a member of the task force. And Walter Doty, he's a retired member of the Memphis PD, and he was also assigned to the task force. And we have Mike Miller on the phone. He's a senior inspector with the Marshals out of the Southern District of Indiana. Welcome, everyone. All right, the murder of young Dolph was in the making for quite some time. This hit was the result of a rap feud.
We learned from the investigation that these were, I guess, two rival rap groups or recording groups, CMG and then Dolph's group, and the feud had gone back probably in excess of 10 years.
Right. So I just want to put it out there. So it's CMG. Some people say Cocaine Music Group was a rap label run by Yo Gotti.
Who's a Memphis rapper, yes.
Right. And Young Dolph's label, which is PRE, or Paper Route Empire.
That's right.
Those are the two labels that we'll be talking about today.
And Gotti's label was bigger first. Dolph is from a small neighborhood in Memphis called Castalia. And early on in his rap history, I guess he had been approached by Gotti with regard to joining his label, and there may have been a disagreement with regard to that at some point.
Young Dolph wanted to stay independent.
He wanted to make it himself, I think, was sort of a theme of his music and I guess the way he lived.
Right. And for some reason that we're not aware of, in 2016, young Dolph posted a subliminal diss at Yo Gotti on Twitter.
I'm not familiar in particular with the various disses that, were cast, but between the two.
Okay.
I know in several of their respective rap songs, they're quite explicit with regard to disrespecting each other and their families.
That was February 11th that went on Twitter, and then on February 24th, Young Dolph released an album called King of Memphis, which was widely viewed as a response to the rivalry with Yo Gotti. Doty, is crowning yourself King of Memphis or releasing a diss track enough to get you killed?
Absolutely. The streets here in Memphis, your reputation means everything. And if you allow someone to disrespect you, it makes it seem as you're weak. And no one wants to be labeled as weak, and you're trying to put on this persona that you're bigger than what you really are.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's escalating. And then the following year, in February, Dolph's SUV is shot over 100 times in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And that then becomes a rap song that Dolph releases, 100 shots. Long history, several acts of violence between the two groups. Many more acts probably that were never reported, in the media. But fair to say, a violent sort of feud between these two groups.
And just to put it aside for a second, is that kind of what the music scene is like in Memphis?
It's gangster rap, and a lot of these groups are associated with other organizations, associations like Memphis Street Gangs. And so crime and music blended over, at least with regard to these two groups and ultimately, this rivalry.
Can you guys spend a minute talking about the gang situation in Memphis?
Memphis is a city that is infested with gang violence. We have a lot of gangs in this city, and the unique thing about the gangs here in Memphis is that a lot of these guys from other gangs actually communicate with one another. And where I'm from, Chicago, the vice lords would only be with the vice lord, the disciples would only be with the disciples. But here in Memphis, it's different. And a lot of these guys hang with each other for the simple fact of the rap game. They want to, it's about money. And money is what brings us together. But if it goes left, then I got to go with whatever gang I'm affiliated with. These guys come from the low-income part of this city. These guys...
Who are the big gangs in Memphis?
Man, I've been retired now, but you would have Grape Street Crips. You would have Vice Lords. You would have GDs. But then you would also have hybrid gangs such as Trula Mafia, Cash Money,
AOB.
You would have a lot of hybrid gangs. The hybrid gangs at the time when I was on the gang task force was these younger guys who didn't want to abide by the older guys' rules. Mm-hmm. It was like, we're not abiding by those rules. We're going to do whatever we want to do. We're gonna make this money however we can.
Right.
And we're not gonna go by the rules. We're gonna, if a person is part of a different set and he's talking about money, we're gonna work with that individual. And which these younger guys would, I think, in my opinion, that they're more deadly than the older guys. They don't have conscience. They don't care about going to jail. They don't care about life. Because as they look at it, man, we're fighting every day just to survive in these communities. Because we live in these communities and we don't see the politicians, we don't see the mayor, we don't see the chief of police coming into these areas. The only time we see these individuals when it's time to vote, then you'll see them coming to the community. But other than that, they don't have the resources. So it's like survival of the fittest in these particular areas. Mm-hmm. So they deem if we can make it on the dope game, we'll make it on the dope game. If I can change it into selling a little bit of dope so I can get some equipment to become a rapper and try to make it on that end. Whatever I have to do in order to survive, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
So a lot of these guys are they're just trying to survive. And is it right? No, it's not right. But you're going to do whatever you need to do in order to survive in these neighborhoods.
Right. Okay, so in February 2017, Dolph's SUV is shot over 100 times. He is not injured. And then in September of 2017, Dolph is shot multiple times outside a shoe store in Hollywood, California. So this rivalry has obviously escalated from what we can see in this instance on one side.
For sure. I mean, there's long-standing rivalry, and like I said, acts of violence that were reported in the media and probably acts that were not.
Mm-hmm. So that was September 26, 2017, where Dolph is shot outside the shoe store in Hollywood, California. And then in November in 2021, 4 years later, young Dolph is fatally shot outside Makeda's homemade butter cookies in Memphis, Tennessee. A brutal slaying that is caught on video.
Yeah, it's a little local cookie store that was actually one of Dolph's favorite places. He was in town, and he stopped by in the middle of the day, like you said. It's broad daylight. Dolph goes there with his brother. They walk inside the store. His brother's ordering while Dolph is taking a phone call at the front of the store. The store is all windows basically in the front, so you can see entirely into the business. While Dolph is there, they've been there maybe a minute or two at the most, probably 2 minutes. A white Mercedes that has some damage to the side of it pulls up, and two gunmen get out of the car, one with a assault rifle and one with a firearm, and just shoot and shoot and shoot into Dolph, who's standing right there inside the business, right behind that window.
And it's horrible. He shot 22 times.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the bullets that hit him. So, do we have any idea how many rounds were fired altogether?
Numerous casings found, throughout the parking lot, 20 plus. They were shooting him from a very close distance.
Right.
I mean, we're talking 3 or 4 feet away.
And shootings are not, or they used to be not uncommon in Memphis.
Yeah, unfortunately, especially in 2021, Memphis crime rate was high, and we had over 300 murders that year. And Memphis, unfortunately, has its share of violence.
But this shooting really rocked the community.
Yeah, this was different. Not just his celebrity status, and not just what he meant to Memphis, but broad daylight right there at the cookie store, and it's all caught on video. This is pretty shocking.
Okay, let's talk for a moment, because I was unfamiliar with Dolph's music, and obviously what Dolph meant to the community. From what people said to you, and from the reaction of the news media and other community leaders, what kind of person was Dolph? How was he viewed by the community?
Yeah, so he's from Memphis. Neighborhood's called Castalia, not probably 7-8 minutes from where we're sitting now.
Mm-hmm.
Is self-made, sort of Memphis-made artist who wanted to go on his own and do it himself. His music's very gritty. There's several songs that he's won awards for, and is critically acclaimed. He was known in the local community. He'd always give like a turkey giveaway and things like that. So he was liked in the Memphis community, and known internationally as a rap star.
Right.
I guess sort of the flip side of that is there's members of his label, just like there's members of the rival label who also associate with Memphis street gangs, and so it was not uncommon that he would have associated with people, or CMG individuals would have associated with people who were known gang members and crime drivers here in Memphis.
And did I read that they were either considering the city, or they did put a curfew into place that night because they were concerned about the unrest?
They were concerned about the unrest. I know the police were ultra busy that night. Fortunately, there wasn't any sort of widespread unrest. I think there was also not so much unrest from the public as what they're worried about, but the associated sort of street gangs that associate with both of the labels, whether or not that violence would flare up,
right,
like crazy.
The murder happened, brazen murder, daylight, and it is caught completely and wholly on video for the world to see.
Yeah, and you can see the two suspects in the video. You don't have great pictures of their faces, but you can see distinctive clothing that they're wearing, including sort of the Bass Pro hat that we'll find out that Justin Johnson was wearing at the time. Mm-hmm. Most importantly, you're able to see the suspect vehicle. It's this white Mercedes, and importantly, it has some damage to the side of it that's distinctive, and so that's going to be a big lead the police have to go on.
So can you talk a little bit about how did they identify Cornelius Smith and Justin Johnson?
Yeah, so different things came together. With regard to the vehicle, able to track it through the city using the flock cameras and witness descriptions of the vehicle at various points. They also got a tip at the time with regard to the individuals that may have been responsible that came in from the public, an anonymous tip. And police were, hard at work on this one. And not terribly long after the crime, were able to sort of identify the two gunmen, or at least have good suspects with regard to the two gunmen. Back then, I worked with a multi-agency gang unit on a day-to-day basis, and so when this happened, I started consulting with the police, and we sort of strategized game plans and everything with regard to the suspects. Ultimately, our office would be who requests the grand jury for an indictment against the defendants.
To issue a warrant for somebody, what is the criteria that has to be met?
Probable cause is sort of the legal standard, so we have to
Okay.
prove these individuals, more likely than not, were involved in this crime. In this case, a typical warrant wasn't issued, but instead we went to the grand jury and presented the case, so we had an indictment that carries with it an arrest warrant.
Okay. So even though you didn't have their faces, because they were covered during the shooting, you felt there was enough evidence linking them.
So we had real good evidence. By the time the indictment came down, so we were able to track Justin Johnson's movements through the entire day. We were able to see that Mercedes arrive at the parking garage of the apartment complex he was living in. We were able to see him walking through the apartment complex in the exact same clothing as the shooter in the video. We were able to see him after the shooting come back, change his clothes, pack his bags, and literally get out of town. So the proof against Justin Johnson was pretty overwhelming once we had a suspect and started tracking his movements.
Right.
We were even able to track the movements of the shooters right after the shooting. They went to an apartment complex in South Memphis that had some video footage, and we were able to see Justin and Cornelius both in that video right after the shooting. Cornelius himself had been shot, so we were able to see him, injured there on the video, and
pretty damning.
Yeah, it was. We had good proof.
Okay. And then you go to a grand jury and you present that proof to them, and
they
then
return indictments.
Okay. And what does an indictment mean for?
An indictment starts a criminal case up in criminal court. And so
Okay.
they were indicted for first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder and various other incredibly serious crimes.
Right.
At that point, then the manhunt begins with regard to find Mr. Johnson.
Okay. And the one other charge that I was thinking about is the capital murder charge.
Yeah. So that's that phrase is a little bit of a colloquialism. There is no charge of capital murder in Tennessee. They're charged with first-degree murder. Capital refers to the death penalty. And in Tennessee, we charge first-degree murder, and then we would have to give notice to the defendants that we were seeking the death penalty. And at that point, I guess you could consider it a capital case.
Okay. And the death penalty was not sought at this time.
That's correct. That's correct. And, various considerations go into that, including the defendant's age and criminal history and wishes of the family and, all sorts of various factors go into that.
What was Justin Johnson's criminal history like?
He had been involved in a shooting some years ago at a bowling alley here in Memphis, Tennessee, and had some charges related to that. I believe he also had a lower level sex offense as well. He was pretty young though, so he didn't have an incredibly voluminous criminal history.
And when did it come to light that this was a paid hit?
So we've had a trial in this matter of Justin Johnson, and Cornelius Smith has testified. And he testified with regard from the start to the end of this thing about how he and Justin were approached to do this hit, a hit that he said was put out on not just Dolph but the other artist of PRE by an individual who's associated with CMG by the name of the street name of Big Jook, and he's now deceased. So Cornelius, once he was caught, gave a statement with regard to that. When Cornelius was arrested, he immediately agreed to cooperate and give truthful statements.
He was arrested first.
Yeah, to give truthful statements about what occurred, and he identified himself on the video as one of the shooters and identified Justin Johnson, as the other shooter. He also gave us the background into, what this was about, because it's not like Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith just all of a sudden woke up one morning and decided they wanted, to kill Dolph. That's not what happened. They didn't fall out of the sky and, do this thing in the middle of the day. He described sort of the background history, though, about being approached by an individual he identified as Hernandez Govan and ultimately Big Jook. Discussions, which included, I said, not just a hit on Dolph, but hits on the other PRE artist. He described actions he took with regard to not just the killing of Dolph, but attempted acts of violence against the other artists. And so this is a big picture thing.
And what was in it for him?
Money. At the time, he is drug addicted, hurting for money, and this is what it was about.
And is the view, it's that important that I will risk spending the rest of my life in jail?
Yeah, I don't know how much thought goes into it. I mean, at some point, if you're living one day at a time, it's what's in front of you.
Right.
Some thought went into it on Justin's part. His motivations were not just money, but also fame. He saw this as a way to work his way onto the record label of CMG. He was an aspiring rapper. He was after a little bit more than money.
And he was just going to do this, not get caught, and become a big artist.
That was planned.
So Justin skips town. Justin is in the wind. He is not to be found.
Yeah, we have large manhunt here in Memphis, not just for him, but for the car. Ultimately, the car is found behind a house that's owned by Hernandez Govan, the name I mentioned earlier, less than 2 or 3 miles from the scene. The car's processed by crime scene. There's a fingerprint on the car that belongs to Cornelius, so that is another item, sort of evidence there against Cornelius. But the car's obviously been cleaned and sort of half hidden out behind this house.
The process then is for Memphis PD to contact the Two Rivers Violent Fugitive Task Force?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, Justin, you get the case?
Well, I'd entered it into the federal system to work it on around the 4th, and I believe at that point the multi-agency gang unit was still looking for him, and in looking for him, I believe they found his half-brother at at a house that they were looking for.
So after the murder, Justin leaves town immediately.
Right.
But at some point, shortly after that, he comes back in town. When he comes back in town, he sees his half-brother, and they're not particularly close. They share the same father, but they're not like brothers, like maybe we see each other every day or anything like that. The half-brother also doesn't have a criminal history, and he's not involved in any of these street gangs or anything like this.
Right.
He knows that Justin is acting very odd. And one of the things Justin does is Justin gives him, the half-brother, his telephone. He tells the half-brother, here's my phone because I'm leaving town again, and I still need to be able to FaceTime with my parole officer because he's on parole at the time. So he basically gives his half-brother the murder phone. This would be the phone he had on the scene at the time of the murder, which is going to be damning evidence, against him, and leaves his brother sort of holding the murder phone. And this will lead investigators like these marshals here to the half-brother.
I get a call from my contact over at the multi-agency gang unit. His name is Christopher Beatty.
Okay.
And he calls me and says, man, I got this. I've got his phone, Justin Johnson's phone number, from him, that he was on the phone with him, actually talking to him when we got to the door. I need you to get up on this quick. As soon as it came up, it was live. By that next morning, he had cut it off and dropped it. But it was in Dallas.
Right.
And we actually, from the call detail records, kind of figured out who he was talking to on that device.
Right.
And had heard information that he might have a couple of cousins that live in the Texas area somewhere. One of the guys that he was talking to was his cousin, Shundell, and another one was his cousin, Leo Barnett. And we kind of figured that he might be with Shundell there. We'd passed a collateral on to Dallas.
Right.
And Dallas actually went to, I believe it was where Shundell lived, and he was not there. Spoke with Shundell's girlfriend, And she just kind of denied everything, said, he's not here, I don't know what you're talking about, and kind of left him in the wind. After that point, it kind of went a little cold. But then I'd gotten information from Shundell's phone that he had called in a car rental service here in Memphis. So I went to that car rental service and talked to them, found out that he had rented, I believe it was a Dodge Ram, silver Dodge Ram. I was actually able to locate that vehicle here in Memphis over in the Hickory Hill area. Sat on the car for a while. I left it for a minute, had to use the bathroom, so I left it. And of course, as soon as you leave the car like that, guess what happens?
I've been sitting surveillance with you guys, and apparently nothing happens until you go to the bathroom or go to lunch.
Right.
If you want something to happen, that's the moment.
So I left, and then the car left. So I called the car rental place to see if they knew where the vehicle was. And they said, well, yeah, it's been driven over to our lot over here. They were dropping off the vehicle. And when we got over there, we looked at the vehicle. We found where the vehicle actually had a bullet hole, what appeared to at least be a bullet hole and was later found to be a bullet hole, in the rearview mirror, driver's side rearview mirror.
And did you ever find out the origin of that story?
No, I mean, there were a lot of guesses as to what it was. That obviously Justin Johnson was in that vehicle, because we'd actually, after doing that, we'd actually talked to I believe it was his baby mama's parents at a house. And they had told us, after denying, they had finally told us, yeah, he came by here a day or two ago,
right,
and was in that silver vehicle.
Paul, at trial, was there ever anything that came out to indicate how that bullet hole got there?
No, I mean, we all suspect it's retaliation, that, somebody was looking for Justin when he was, here, but that's nothing that ever came out of trial. You would need basically Justin to tell us that story, and he did not. And
what do you think about the theory that there was another contract put out on Justin?
Oh, I think it's very likely that there were individuals seeking retaliation against Justin Johnson after this shooting.
So he wasn't only on the run from police.
If he were smart, he'd be on the run from not just the police, but from the people seeking to retaliate against him.
Right.
Now, if he were smart, I guess. During the same time period, not only is he coming back to Memphis and doing whatever he's doing in Memphis, but he's also posting various things on either his Instagram or his Twitter or whatever it is with money and fancy cars and fancy outfits and things like that. So this isn't somebody who went into strict disciplined hiding or something like that.
But I just got to put a pin in this for 1 second, because so he's on the run, and that's the ideal time for him to be posting.
Well, I think you have to understand, I said he wasn't just about the money, he was about the fame. And to be seen, after this, even, while he's a suspect with money and fancy cars and all that is probably part of the allure of the thing for him.
And that has to come back and haunt him at trial, yes?
Some of those, yes. Some of those pictures were introduced at trial.
So often murderers don't have a ton of resources. If you think of it as a game between us and them, chess or cards or whatever, then their moves are limited by what they can do. And so if you don't have money or you don't have friends with money, you can't go stay in other cities. You can't go stay in hotels. You can't rent cars. This was not the case with Justin Johnson. He was able to change cities. He was able to rent cars. He was able to stay in motels. And so even though he was posting on social media, it's still very challenging to locate him. Based on his movements and based on his resources.
I remember a couple of the pictures, $10,000 probably or more, in cash. Right. And I remember a Bentley,
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I remember seeing the one with the Bentley where you're standing outside. And yeah. The interesting thing about that one is that's how we kind of figured out that he was, one of the ways that we kind of figured out he was in Atlanta at the time, was not because of the car or not because of anything other than the graffiti in the background. We had a suspicion that he was in Atlanta at that point anyways, but the graffiti in the background, it said "fuck Krog." Krog is a street in Atlanta.
Okay.
So we and we'd already heard from various sources that he was in Atlanta at the time.
Right.
That just kind of sealed the deal a little bit, stating more evidence that he was in Atlanta.
I think we heard at trial that he made it to Dallas, that he made it to Nashville, that he made it to Atlanta, ultimately Indianapolis or that, sort of area. So he was mobile and with money, and
he had thought about his escape plan.
Oh, I don't know how well thought out it was, but it was.
I think he was making it up as he went along.
Yeah,
I mean, he had his areas that he liked to go to, but he just kind of made up as he went along where he was going to go.
Right.
After he left Dallas and came to Memphis, I believe he came to Memphis right after he left Dallas. I could be wrong. But I know that was around Christmas time that year.
Right.
And when he left Memphis, which was shortly, I believe, after he dropped that car off, he had released a video of Trackhawk, of a song that he had made, and a music video. And we're looking at that video. That was another reason why we thought he was possibly in Atlanta, was because I want to say he said it was going to drop at 12 o'clock, and Dallas is an hour ahead. So it did drop at 12 o'clock Dallas's time, but it dropped at 11 o'clock our time.
Right.
So it was kind of like, I know it just kind of made sense that that's where he would be.
Mm-hmm.
But we looked and watched that video, and one of the guys that was really a good analyst over at the Marshalls looked at it and looked in the background and saw where they had, it was the weirdest thing, and I was like, I didn't even think of that. That's pretty good. He found where the ice chest in the background was serviced by a certain company, and found out in our area that there were only 2 or 3 places that were that ice company served to bring ice. So we found out what place. It was a gas station in Blytheville, Arkansas, that he actually shot that video at. So me and Doty went to the gas station to try and locate and see if there was anything we could find there. We found, obviously, the ice chest, but nothing of evidentiary value or anything that was going to help us with him. But, we didn't know that till we got there. But
right.
When he left Memphis, that's exactly where he went. And then from there, I believe he went to Nashville, then probably Atlanta.
And so this whole time, the tip line is open.
Yes.
And you're getting a lot of tips. And I know some of them that have been valuable early on. Now I've done several podcasts where some tips come in, sometimes given by psychics.
Yeah. When the Marshals made it a major case, which was probably, I want to say, around the beginning of January when they made it a major case. See, you have basically 3 different types of cases for the most part at the Marshals.
Mm-hmm.
It's your normal standard case. Then you can make it a major case, and then if it really ramps up, then they can take it to a top 15 through the U.S.
Okay.
This one we had made a major case, which meant they released like billboards and stuff like that.
Extra reward money.
Yeah, trying to ramp it up, more resources and stuff like that.
Tips are a funny thing because they're often very good and they often break cases. However, you have to sort through a lot of chaff to get to the wheat, and you get a lot of people who are, no offense to the psychic community, but they're not usually on top of things for us.
Yeah.
I remember one of them that I get a call at like 3, 4 in the morning, and my phone's ringing. So I'm waking up answering it, and it's a psychic telling me that she knows where he's at by remote viewing, that he's somewhere in Mississippi near a body of water, which at the point she told me, I knew he was in Atlanta. But you don't want to be, there's no reason to be mean to him or anything. So I was just like, yes, ma'am, we'll look into that. I appreciate you calling, and went back to sleep. But
wait till 9 a.m. to call next time.
Yeah.
But wait, there was nothing more specific than a body of water?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I'd gotten a few calls similar to that there were psychics, and some that were actually somewhat helpful, but they were giving information that we already knew.
So the last time he was tracked, we were in Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay.
And we do know he had a known girlfriend that used to live in Memphis that lived in Atlanta. We'd sent a lead out there to check her house because we had information that he was possibly at her house. Atlanta was not able to establish whether someone was there or not, and was not able to establish whether it was him, if there was anybody there, or even if he was had been around there. So they ended up having to walk away from that. In the meantime, the funny thing is after that happened, shortly after that happened, the marshal for the area, our marshal for Memphis or for West Tennessee, had called us into his office, wanted a meeting with me, Como. There's also a Doty, obviously, and also a team leader of ours, Thomas Ballard. And we're sitting there, and he wanted an update and was like kind of looking at us like, because this was after he had dropped the video for Trackhawk. So he was kind of like, it was like a few days, I want to say, after that dropped.
Right.
He was sitting there telling us, that to me is almost an embarrassment. Is that not, you guys not? And we're like, yeah, we are. I promise you, we're trying to work this. And as we're sitting there talking to him, we're explaining to him we're pretty sure he's in Atlanta at this point. When we explained to him how we felt like he was in Atlanta and gave him the information, and he said, okay, so you guys are saying you need to go to Atlanta. And we're like, okay, sure, yeah. We'll go to Atlanta. So he was at that point, he was telling us, y'all get your bags packed, go home, get your bags packed. You guys are going to Atlanta.
Right.
Like, okay, sure. In that instance was when Como, who was handling our, he gets a call from someone at the Marshals. She told us that Shundell had rented a vehicle this morning, and I want to say that was on the 11th of January, had rented a vehicle in Atlanta, Georgia. Shundell doesn't live in Atlanta. Shundell lives in Dallas at this point. And he was in contact with Shundell a lot. All of us looked at each other and said, there's no way in the world that he's not in that vehicle with him. We were just sitting here going, there's no way in the world.
Right.
So we were able to locate that vehicle. I want to say it was right outside Indianapolis.
Okay.
And that's when we hurried up to get a lead sent to Indianapolis. And we were getting information as to where the vehicle actually was.
And now we will go to Mike Miller, who's on the horn, who is a senior inspector with the Marshals out of the Southern District of Indiana. Welcome, Mike.
Hello, thank you.
So the ball is now in your court.
So on January 11th, it was around 2:30 p.m., I got a call. They were tracking a rental car they believed was occupied by Justin Johnson. Traveling just north of Indianapolis and heading south. Maybe they're going back to Atlanta, could possibly be going back to Memphis. We weren't totally sure. So I was on the north side of Indianapolis, so I started heading back south, trying to get a hold of some people in Louisville, thinking maybe they're going south. I was at least 20 minutes behind this vehicle already. And she's starting to send me information on the targets and locates of the vehicle. Vehicle actually started traveling westbound on Interstate 70 towards St. Louis. So we're like, okay, probably going to Memphis. Let's try to reach out to either Southern District of Illinois to kind of get them up to speed to see if they can maybe possibly catch up with this vehicle. That car got almost to Illinois and pulled off the interstate and stopped at a Pilot gas station, one of those like truck stop gas stations. And so that was actually got real lucky there. I'm still 20, 25 minutes behind trying to catch up. I got 2 phones going. I got a radio, text group, trying to get people spun up. We have a deputy out in Terre Haute, Indiana, and he got one of our task force officers. They were able to get over to the gas station and actually set up on it. We had Indiana State Police was assisting us, and then Putnam County Sheriff's Office. Our guys got there first to the gas station, got eyes on, but we only saw one individual at the vehicle. He went inside and then came back out. We didn't know how long they were going to be there.
He is
Shondell.
Right. Okay.
We didn't see anybody else in the vehicle.
But you guys are keeping your distance. You're not swarming or anything like that. You're trying to just see what this situation is.
We have one of our TFOs parked in the parking lot of the gas station, and then one across the street. They're not in any marked vehicles. State Police is parked at another gas station across the street. So we got our distance, keeping eyes on. Shondell came out. We didn't know it was Shondell, but we knew it wasn't Justin Johnson because just by looking at him, it didn't look anything close to the target.
Right.
So we assumed it was Shondell. He came out, went back in. He did that probably twice while I was there. When I actually got there, we ended up with 9 state troopers there, and 3 of us from the task force, and 2 from the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. So we had quite a few people there. I drove by the vehicle was parked just to try to see if I can see anyone else in the vehicle. I couldn't. Another deputy ended up driving by it too. He couldn't see anybody else in the vehicle. Once Shondell came back out to the vehicle again, he went to go put the pump back up from gassing up the car, and we just boxed it in and took it down. And Shondell was just standing outside of the vehicle by the pump, didn't put up a fight, obeyed commands, got him in custody. They got the car, and Justin Johnson's inside the vehicle. Seats laid all the way back. He's kind of laying back. I don't know if he had been sleeping, but he was just sitting laid back in that vehicle eating a Subway sandwich.
Wow.
And pulled him out of the vehicle. He complied. He didn't say anything, really. Didn't say anything at all. We asked him what his name was. He didn't say anything. Sent some pictures to the text group, to the Memphis guys, and sent a few more with tattoos and stuff. And then after we sent those pictures, I think they confirmed, and then he gave up his name, Justin Johnson.
Right.
Hey, Chris, just want your listeners might be interested in what this feels like when you're working a big case
Yes,
like this.
that was going to be the next question.
Because the Marshall Citizen Task Force is great because I can pick up the phone and talk to someone in Indianapolis or Dallas or Atlanta or whatever, and their problem's my problems. And, you know, I can have a fugitive in the wind at 9 a.m. They can have him arrested before lunchtime.
Right.
However, where that sometimes is terrible or anxiety-inducing is how this is a huge important case to us. Mike in Indianapolis, this is probably the first time he's hearing about it 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so we're not wanting to breathe down his neck, but we're also saying, hey, how's it going? You know, where are you at? What's going on? You know what I mean? So, like the song says, the waiting is the hardest part.
Yeah, I can actually remember. I mean, not many people remember if you gave me a date out of any calendar year. Where were you on this day 6 months ago?
Right.
I can tell you that day I was eating at Lost Pizza over in Memphis on Poplar. Just because I remember exactly where we were at, and I remember when they sent the picture, one of them, I looked at it and I was like, "That's him. That's absolutely him."
That pizza just got a whole lot better.
Oh yeah. We were ecstatic because we'd been working it, like I said, 60, 70 hours, 80 hours sometimes a week, and it was getting tiring.
Right.
It did get tiring.
Yeah.
I know we got him on like a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. By Saturday, my wife said I was laying on the recliner in the chair, and she couldn't even keep me awake because I was tired, just worn out from it.
Paul, where were you?
I did. They do the hard work, so I don't know where I was, but they were working harder than me, I'm sure. It was good. I mean, we've been waiting and hoping to get him in custody because it's, as I said, an important case for us, important case for Memphis, family, everything like that.
Right,
so
right.
Once he's in custody and we can get him here in Memphis, our prosecution will start.
And how long did it take before he went to trial?
I'm going to guess about 2 years to go to trial, maybe 2.5 years to go to trial. We had a week-long trial and, presented the evidence, and he was convicted of all the charges.
Just out of curiosity, given the mountain of evidence you had, I mean, really compelling evidence, why would you take that to trial?
I think he saw that he had sort of limited options. A guilty plea would have meant at least 40 years, the next 40 years of his life in jail. I don't think he saw much of a difference between that and ultimately the life plus 20-something years that he got. Yeah, so he rolled the dice.
So he got life, and what does that mean?
He got life plus, I think, about 25 years. So life in Tennessee is 51 years.
Okay.
You have to do every day of it. And then 25 years after that, so around 70-something years. He's in his 20s now. Guaranteed,
no
yeah.
time for any mitigating circumstance.
No parole or anything like that.
A lot of time to work on his rap game.
Yeah. He released a song from jail. So while this case was pending, he released a rap song from jail that he recorded over the jail phone. That got him in a little bit of trouble with the jail, but not as much trouble as he was in, for everything else.
I guess you make the best of your 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so we had a trial. He did not testify at the trial. Cornelius Smith did testify, and like he had from the time he got arrested, he said that's me on the video, and that's Justin right there, next to me. And we had video of Justin from throughout the day, including right after the shooting, and including leaving town. We had testimony from the half brother that we've talked about in this podcast, and it was a strong case.
Right.
In order to evade us, a lot of times he was sending things. You'd mentioned about his Instagram and stuff. He wasn't actually posting those. What he was doing was basically taking that information, sending it to somebody, and having them post it to his Instagram. A friend of his or his cousin or just an associate of his would actually be the one that would post it. So it was kind of hard to tell where exactly that was coming from.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So he gets convicted, and several months prior, Big Juke is killed.
Yeah, while Justin was waiting trial, Big Juke was the victim of a homicide here in Memphis.
Do we believe this is a retaliatory hit?
We don't believe it's a retaliatory hit from this incident. May have
Okay.
been a retaliatory hit for some other business that Juke had gotten himself into.
Interesting. And Justin Johnson requested a new trial.
Yeah, so that's typical. You have to. You get convicted and you have to ask for a new trial. I mean, that's what you do, and then you start your appeal process.
Okay.
And so he's just in the appeal process.
And that'll go on for
2 or 3 years. 2 or 3 years is for the appeals.
And just so our listeners know, what would be the basis of his appeal?
He's already filed his appeal. You would argue certain trial errors. I think that this is a very clean trial. I think about I can't even remember the couple of issues that he's arguing. That the evidence was pretty overwhelming or was overwhelming. Right. After this set of appeals, you even have another set of appeals where you can argue that your attorney was being ineffective and things like this. So the appeals process is something that happens in every sort of trial and conviction.
So you expect that will happen? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, yeah, he'll get his appeals.
Right. Okay. Well done, everyone in this room, for bringing justice to young Dolph and the community.
I'll tell you, this is typical of the marshals. When we reach out to them, they go gangbusters on these ones. We reach out to them on the violent cases, especially when we think our fugitive has fled, the jurisdiction, and they get all over it. Thanks, guys.
We have a long relationship, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Absolutely.
I did want to say that the multi-agency gang unit did. I have a contact over there, and they did work it to begin with. But when they realized that he was out of town and that we could reach out a little better, they were definitely they passed on everything they had done, or a lot of what they had done at least.
Right.
I can tell you they worked it pretty hard to begin with before they realized he's going to be out of town, and we need to so hand this over to the marshals to work.
I had gotten promoted to supervisor in August of 2021, and so
no need to brag.
Well, I just wanted to say that my boss, who already came with this story, brought me in after this arrest and said, hey, great job, and I told him, which I always say, my guys make me look good. Our task force, this is going to sound arrogant, they always do a great job.
Let me say this in closing, and this is just me. These guys on this Marshall Task Force do a hell of a job of capturing people. I just wish that the victim's family, could see and meet these guys and see the work that these guys do. They work crazy hours. They're up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. They usually don't shut it down till late at night, and sometimes they get called back, and it's just unreal. These guys do a lot of work. And they go after the most dangerous, violent criminals. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
They don't run from gun violence. They go to it.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are the real heroes. I'm out the game now, but I can tell you these guys work their ass off. Excuse my French. But they work their ass off. And for the family, the victim's family, to meet these guys, I think that's what's needed. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times what happened is homicide will call the victim family and say, hey, we got the guy in custody. But they never meet the soldiers that go out there and put their life on the line in order to get these people.
Right.
That's it.
Wow. Well said, sir. Again, thank you to Paul, Seth, Justin, Dodie for coming on and sharing your story. Also, special thanks to Erica Williams from the Shelby County DA's office for helping put this whole thing together. And if you have a moment, this is the part I ask you to please go to Apple or Spotify and give us a 5-star rating and write a glowing review. And, of course, tell your friends about us. It's pretty unusual to have a podcast where you're hearing from the people in law enforcement who are at the tip of the spear. We're just trying to grow this thing so we could really use your help. So thanks very much in advance. And finally, Chasing Evil is produced with the cooperation of the U.S. Marshals Service. It contains interviews with current and retired employees, as well as other persons. Opinions, positions, and views expressed by any of them may not reflect the official views, positions, or policies of the United States Marshals Service. Stay safe, everyone.